Good morning. This is Mike. I want to spend a few minutes and talk about marking gauges because I think they're really useful for setting up, laying out joinery, and there's other functions I'll explain. Just by way of background, this is kind of a very traditional marking gauge. It's got a head here, it's got a beam that locks down, it's got a pin in it. These were used for centuries to lay out joinery, and they worked really great. Some of them came out and they had like a little cutter in here, so it was like a slicing gauge. So it sliced the wood more than kind of scratching it like the one I just showed you. So, but these have been around for a long, long time. And so kind of the new kid on the block are these, it's a wheel marking gauge. So it has the same thing. It's got a head here. It's got a beam that adjusts. This little knob locks it down. But on the end, what makes it so different, it's got a cutter. It's got this round cutter that's sharp, that actually scores the wood, and it does a really nice job. So kind of the benefits of this are that you can kind of roll it across your work. And the way the cutter is angled, as you do that, it actually pulls the fence tight against your board. So when I want to go across here, I can leave a really nice straight line, like I just could do 2 passes, and I have a very distinct line that I can use, as a reference, or actually as a physical line that I could drop a chisel into if I want to pare right to a certain dimension. So that's really good. And look what I can do on a narrow board. I can actually take and just kind of roll it across, roll it across, roll it across. So those are some really nice features of the marking gauge. Also, this little cutter here, you can sharpen it. Just take it out and you can just rub it on a sharpening stone or diamond stone or anything like that, and you can sharpen it. So this thing will last forever. And actually, the one we sell here comes with 2 extra cutters, so you'll never be without a cutter. Like say if you were to drop it and nick it, you got an extra cutter there. So some of the features of this gauge that we sell at Tay Tools is, well, the first one is that this head is solid brass. It's not brass plated. It's not put together in 2 pieces. It's one chunk of brass, so it has nice weight, really nice heft. And also it's machined such that it fits your hand perfectly. My finger just wraps around there, and I can use it, and I can hold it with in my finger like that, and then I can pull with my thumb across the board. That works really well. It's got this beam here that's a hardened beam, and it has some graduation marks on it. I use them sometimes, but I'll show you another way to measure. It's got the cutter on the end, and also when you could retract the cutter inside the head, so when you're not using it, you don't have to worry about the cutter getting damaged if you were to take it traveling. So there's some really nice features of the marking gauge. So how you use it? If you want to, like I said, I just showed you how to do it. You just lay it on your board, put your thumb here, and you can just pull it across the board. It gives a nice, very distinct line. You can wrap around a board, like if you're doing like a tenon, you can wrap around the board. And then when you do that, the lines meet perfectly. So this is really a nice piece of kit. So if you want to set the depth, like let's say you want to mark for a dovetail here, you can actually set your depth simply by putting a board on your table, dropping your cutter down. Now your cutter is exactly the depth of this board. So when you mark this, you have same exact dimension. So you can also set the depth by using a ruler, and the way you do that is you actually drop your cutter into one of these graduation marks. You got to get a nice ruler, not one of those printed ones. Drop it into one of those graduations, and then you can tighten your knob down. Now your cutter is set for exactly 2 inches, and you can use it to mark 2 inches from the edge. So you can use it for doing dovetails, obviously, for marking out your pins and tails on your dovetails, your shoulder line, or your line. And then you can also use it to do tenons. You can do it for tenons. You can mark out all the way around for tenon. You can also use it for mortises. You can put it on, you could mark on the face here, and you can turn here and go with the grain. And you could mark out for a mortise right there, and you could scribe with the end marks with the marking knife. So there's a couple of uses in the hand tool shop, but in the power tool shop, this has uses as well. And let me show you a couple of interesting things. So this is a groove ran on the dado stack. There's some little ripples in the bottom there. So if I can use this to clean it up. Now I sharpened this. I sharpened my cutter, so it's pretty sharp. And I just drop it down into the bottom of that thing. And then I can actually use it to clean up the bottom. And if it's not deep enough, I can just give it a little tap. And now I'm taking off small shavings. I don't know if you can see those, but I'm taking off small shavings, and I can actually use this as a router plane to clean up the bottom of a groove that needs a little bit of work. So that's one function you can use it for. Another thing you can do is if, like I cut this this rabbet and with the table saw, so I cut it here, then I flipped it and cut it here, and in the bottom is just a little sliver of wood left. So what I can do is I can take this knife or this gauge and I can set it for the depth, and I can cut on one side here, and then I can set it over here for the other depth, and then I can cut again. I don't know if you can see that. And as I cut it, you can see that little chip's coming out. That little chip's coming out. So I'm cleaning up that corner. It works really, really well. You can also use it like if I'm running like I was running some cabinet doors on my router and I was getting some tear out because the cutter was chipping out. I can take this and I can set it for my edge of my groove, and then I can actually run this down the board and I can actually mark. Now when I run it on the router, that won't get any tear out because those fibers have already been severed. So this is a really great way to handle tear out when you're doing machine tooling. Or if you're cutting and you want to cut a piece, let's say I'm going to cut it say for 2 inches, and you want it to be perfect and you don't want any tear out, you can actually take this and you can score a line on your board, and then mainly on the two sides where tear out could occur, and you can cut it on your saw and there will be no tear out because all those fibers have been severed previously to cut. So this is a great tool to have in your shop. Every woodworker needs one of these. This is a really fine example. They're going to be on sale for 1 week only. TayTools.com. Check it out.